What up, guys? Another Adonis review. Today I break away from our expected game reviews to do something that's truly important in life, and that is the Avatar Netflix's Last Airbender live action. I think that's everything review. Now, I thought I would give a fair representation of a fan's perspective, as I'm sure most people who give reviews, like IGN and whatnot, are, fans. Anyone who's fully watched it, I'm sure, is a fan, right? That's why it's essentially one of the biggest shows ever. But I feel like I'm a pretty average fan. I've watched the show many times, and I feel like I can give a very fair representation of what you should expect, kind of based it off other reviews I've seen and maybe what you've heard from other people, and give my insight now that I've watched it all, and hopefully help you make a decision if you should invest time. Now, to give you the quick answer, you should invest time and you should watch it. I can't truly see a lot of people that are fans of the show disliking it. I think it's a fantastic way to adapt the first season. They do change, multiple things, but I think it's in a way that suits it better, which I thought might be tough to agree with it originally, but, when you really think about the show and if you did truly adapt it, you'll understand what I mean. Now, first, to give some context in it all, watching Netflix create these shows and with their recent success with One Piece, which I don't think anyone thought was possible, not because it's tough to adapt animes correctly, but out of all animes, Netflix, I mean, if Netflix can't get Death Note right, how in the world would they get One Piece right? But it seems like Netflix has finally figured out the deepest secret in the world, which is if you just follow what the source material does and get people that kind of look, or give them wigs that kind of look at the original characters, fans will typically be happy with it instead of completely changing the story and everything. I mean, again, like Death Note, what the fuck? I mean, if they made that into a show and just followed the source material, it would have done great. There'd be fucking 100 seasons of it. I don't get it, but they've learned. If One Piece shows anything, they've done it. Now, but here's the difference between One Piece, for example, and Avatar. One Piece, first season that Netflix adapted, had to adapt it based off, I believe, 64... I don't know if it's 64 episodes, and maybe like 100 manga chapters around. Don't quote me, somewhere around there, I believe. So when it comes to them adapting it, especially in 8 episodes, I feel like they would have had a lot more success if they, did something crazy and gave us 10 episodes. But when it comes to 8 episodes, that was a tough feat. And a lot of what was given to us in One Piece had to be rushed, and that was a clear thing. And that goes back to the original movie. When I think about the original Avatar movie made by M. Night Shyamalan and all the things that it failed in, like, bending, 10 people to throw a rock, for example, and the, terrible casting, in my opinion, where he, for some reason, decided that, everyone should be his countryman, that's the Fire Nation. I'm not sure. But, when you first see that movie, and when I first was going to watch it in theaters and was prepared to see it, there was, I don't think, any way doubt in my mind that I knew it wasn't going to fail. And was it because I thought M. Night Shyamalan was a terrible director? I mean, it's very strange that he decided to do Avatar, but no. Did I think it's because I knew it was impossible to do it? No. It was very simple. You're adapting a 20-so episode season into a 1 hour and a half, 2 hour movie. It's like, that's just fucking impossible. You can't do it. You can't do it properly, and you're going to upset everyone, no matter how faithful it is. And that was the biggest problem. Luckily, Netflix, with adapting it as a show, unlike with One Piece, where they had to adapt, 60 episodes, 100 chapters into 8 episodes an hour, they had only 20 so episodes to adapt in 8 hours. I don't know if I'm crazy, but I swear I heard they originally were going to do 10 episodes. And I thought if they had 10 episodes to adapt the first season, like there's no way they could miss anything. And it's surprising to see how, even with 8 episodes, which should be completely possible, Because even if you think about it in the sense of 20, minutes an episode, so 3 episodes in an hour, you know, that's easily obtainable to get 20 of them in what, 5, 6, 7 episodes, right? That's 21 episodes right there of the cartoon. So it's impossible for them to fail. And like I said, they've cut some stuff out, they've merged stuff together to create a new retelling of it, which personally I do think probably was the better way to go about it, especially when it comes to the first season. I don't know about you, but personally, my feelings of the first season definitely is probably the slowest, most kiddish, and probably for most people is the one that is the slowest. And then once you get to the second and third season, that's when it like skyrockets into greatness. So if there was any fat to be trimmed, it would be on the first one. And, take it from me, if there's anybody who could say that a shot-for-shot reenactment of a movie, I'm talking about Lion King, for example, it just misses. You're just like, why is it even made? It's nice to see them add. And here was the thing that's nice about it. So they did, condense, but they condensed in a way that almost made perfect sense sometimes. I'll give you an example. Instead of having like the Rebel Kids Tech or whatever his name, I forget, and the inventor and his son, and then Umashu and Boomy and the lovers cave or whatever tunnels all be different episodes, or maybe weirdly broken out into like, they handle one thing within 20 minutes and another within 20 minutes or whatever, somehow all in one episode. They kind of mush them all into like one major story of Amashu, which isn't maybe the perfect way to do it, but it works and it gets it. Because I feel like you could agree with me possibly too that there's a lot of things in the first season that we necessarily don't need, like the episode where they travel with a group and the two groups hate each other and whatnot, and Aang has to learn how to fucking handle it or whatever. So anywho, so not so bad. But what do they give us with this crunch time that we have now had? They give us more backstory on things that I actually do care about. For example, one of the things I think is probably the best things about the show is Zuko and Iroh's relationship, which is, again, something that typically you see more of in that father and son fashion starting the second season, which personally I think makes it, why that season gets better. It's just watching that relationship grow and watching Zuko grow. And luckily, they've adapted more of the Zuko and Iroh relationship to allow to see that starting in the first season more, where you don't typically see it as much until the second season in the traditional show. So I appreciate that. Now, I'll also say another thing that I think was really great, and I was really hoping that they did more, and they didn't. And I guess, spoiler alert if you don't want to listen for the next 30 seconds. But one of the coolest things I think they changed that was probably the best thing I could ever think of for a change overall is the fact that in the whole show of Avatar, there's glimpses of Aang hitting the Avatar saber. You're like, oh shit, he's going to put the smack down. You're like, you fucked up. But typically it's caused by drastic emotion, old shit happening, right? Where he's enraged or sad or needs to defend somebody and like snaps. And they do something in this show, which again, I wish they did at least one more time just because it was so cool. But they did it where, one of the Avatar states takes over Aang to show him how to use his power, and like you get a full presentation of an Avatar using the full display of their power, not having to wait till the final, 2 episodes of the fucking whole show where Aang finally hits it, which, was awesome. Because, again, like, then we'd have to wait, till like 2030 probably till to fucking get to the end of this live action, which I'm sure they make the second season. It's doing great. But fucking, man, it would take a while. So just to get an Avatar, a version of it, of a fully realized Avatar, it's fucking dope. So, moving on to that, the next I'll go over is the characters, character-wise. You know, I've seen a few reviews talking specifically about the first episodes, complaining about, like, Graham, like, talking for fucking forever. Maybe that was just tough to take when you're watching a premiere, and all you'll have is an hour to take, and Graham's talking for 4 minutes of that hour when you want rather be seeing something else. But it's fucking like 4 minutes of the first episode. Like, yeah, did she exposition or dish, I don't know the word, dumps on you, but yeah, it's only like a minute, and then like she just tells you the fucking like the concept, and then like you never see her ever again, and then she's fucking gone. So it wasn't that big of a deal. Another thing that they complained about was like Qatar being different. No, give me if I'm wrong, you know, but I really thought hard about it, and I personally am not a Qatar fan or Stan or whatever. You know, like her character just is whatever to me. She's always been kind of like annoying in a way. Like, not like I hate her, just, you know, it's like whatever. So, she doesn't improve on me more with this, you know. The character obviously doesn't do awesome all the time, but she doesn't do terrible. It's whatever. Aang, you know, I feel like that actor nailed being Aang. His, you know, bright eyes is just super there. You know, is he stiff sometimes? He's a little kid, and, you know, little kids sometimes aren't the best actors. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but does it take away from the story at all, or, you know, make it unwatchable? No, not at all. You know, overall, it's a fine performance. Sokka, of course, I'd say he's, you know, stand out. Most people say that guy's Sokka. He nailed it. Yeah, he looks like Sokka to me. He talks like Sokka. He does Sokka shit. I mean, he's Sokka. I think Zuko's perfect. You know, like I said, one of the main things that upset me about the original movie that they made live action was the casting. And just like, what the fuck? They didn't even try to make anyone look like it. It was pretty upsetting. And, you know, I feel like they really nailed that. The Fire Lord, you know, I mean, if I could picture the Fire Lord, that's exactly how I would see it. Like, they brought that motherfucker to life. Same thing, you know, the actor who plays Zuko, I just think he's a great version of him. Like I said, Sokka as well. There's so many people that I feel like are essentially perfect. The only people I can really think of that I personally didn't really like the casting for was probably Azula. I don't know, she just looks like a little, like, chubby girl can't get a date. I don't know, don't me too, me or cancel me, but I don't know, I just didn't really feel her or her, like, two friends. Like, they're supposed to be, like, I don't know, like a gymnast and then, like, this, like, emo girl. Like, they just, like, I don't know, they just look like little losers. I can't explain it. I'm sure if you watch, you'll see. But it's basically them, and the only thing I say beyond that is, I don't know, the moon spirit lady girl, and she kind of, like, at first I was like, man, how old is that bitch? Like, she looks like a mom. Like, it looks like that's her mom. Like, where's the daughter at? You know, but she kind of grew on me as well. But I get reflexes of or flashes of the original live action movie. And I'm not gonna lie, that was probably the best casting of the whole first live action movie, was that Moon Spirit girl, because she was, you know, a hottie for sure. So, but anyway, she does fine. So, you know, the casting overall, like 95% perfect. You know, those are the only real negatives I have. When it comes to the special effects in it, I've seen a few people say that there's some subpar effects somewhere. Like, I don't know really what they're talking about. Every single episode, all 8 of them, has, you know, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars of special effects put into it. I mean, it's not like they just tease you with like a flame blast in, you know, one of the episodes, and, you know, and then you only get big scenes in the first and last episode. Every episode has a good amount of probably very high money costing special effects, and I feel like it overall looks great. The only ones that look slightly off, in my opinion, is, you know, sometimes, yeah, Aang moves a little bit too smooth to be a human, and that's even for his, like, air-bending swiftness that he's supposed to have, which is probably why they kind of thought it'd be okay, because, it, you know, if he looked super smooth, it's just because he's an airbender and he glides around. But beyond that, I mean, that, again, that's not a deal breaker. It's whatever, you know. That's like 2 seconds of one episode where you're like, and then they move past it, and there's a terrific special effects scene right after. You know, the rock bending, air bending, fire bending, water bending, all done pretty well. I do agree. I saw one review say that the water bending at some points, like, instead of being like a water hose, it's like a splash in the face. And I would say that kind of is true for a lot of this show in the beginning. And that also goes into, one of the things I thought was kind of wrong in the original, the classic cartoon, and then this as well, which is the whole Katara essentially becoming like a master waterbender in the first season. When it's like, is she, like, I guess, in this one they kind of try to explain 1% more that she's fucking gifted or something, but which they didn't do as much, because that's like the hardest thing to believe. Like what the fuck? Like, how did she get so good? Like, she could barely make a ball of water in the first episode, and now she's supposed to be like, Master Katara of sorts, slightly, by the end of the first season. I just wish they gave her, it would have made a lot more sense if they gave, like, her and Aang time to learn waterbending, because even Aang doesn't do anything. That's like the whole point. Like, the first season is called Water, because he's fucking learning waterbending. He doesn't do it at all. It's fucking weird. But I digress. The show overall is fantastic. I feel, like I said earlier, that a lot of the show traditionally is slower in the first season, which maybe might be hard for a lot of people to get into because they think it's kiddish or whatever, and it picks up in the second or third season. And I'd say this is a perfect medium for somebody to get into the show. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go binge the second or third season of the cartoon now, because I've now watched the first season, I can say, again, and I'm up to date and can continue with what I consider to be the highest highlights which is the second to third season. So I think this is a great way to get into it. I think this show will get people who aren't into it to maybe watch the second or third season, or maybe like it so much that they'll even start from the very beginning, which is, of course, the right thing to do. So I think they did a great job. I think it's definitely worth a watch. Is it a shot-for-shot reenactment? No, it isn't. But do they condense the things that they probably should condense and add things that we probably would want to see to create better world building overall that should be there? I think we do. And I think they succeed at it. So, I think you should watch it if you're a fan. I don't think you'll be upset. I think One Piece did a great job. Obviously, people are pretty excited about it. And I think if One Piece was considered to do a great job, this one is for sure a great job. It's 100% a better adaptation than the One Piece one was. And that's obviously because they had less material they had to adapt. So, check it out. I am sure you will not be disappointed. There will be things that you're probably like, they could have done slightly better maybe, or they could have done this or that. But overall, I think you'll be pretty happy about it. So, hope this helps. Later, guys.